Welcome, Joseph Lombardi. How's it going?
Good. How you doing, John?
Doing well, thank you. So this is going to be a fun interview. I'm just meeting you today, so I'm good to get to know you just like the audience. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm the owner and founder of Ironhawk Financial. I've been in business for 21 years. I won 27 industry awards. I've been featured in International Business Times, Business Insider, Market Insider, The Daily Caller. I was recently on the cover of the top 40 advisors in the country under 40 years old to 100 INC magazine. Also on the cover of the Who's Who for Building and Construction. Five-star rated on Google, A plus rated on the Better Business Bureau. Over 2,000 clients, over $2 billion of protection and rollovers in my career. And I basically specialize in IRS Code Section 7702 that allows real estate investors to invest in my strategy, then lean the money out and earn two streams of income on $1.
Interesting. Okay, so I definitely want to get into that. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into real estate.
Yeah, so my dad owned JV Lombardi Builders. He owned about 20 pieces of real estate. He was worth about 25, 30 million bucks. And he ended up falling three stories off a ladder, rebuilding a house in Greenwich and lost everything in about 2 years. So he had no financial foundation. He had no disability. So that's what made me get into this industry when I was 19 years old. And then by doing that, what it allowed me to do is see that a lot of people don't have strong financial foundations. They don't have any type of plan. They
Mhm.
they sort of go all in and hope that A, the market stays up, B, taxes don't go up, C, they stay healthy, and it only takes one thing to derail your entire financial life. So I specialize in meeting with business owners and, like I said, real estate developers. I work with a few of them in New England that do huge, 500,000 house developments, and they give me, two, 300 million, leverage the money out, and they actually earn on average about 10% tax-free negative interest rate on the money they loan out, using different codes and strategies.
Okay, so you're saying that they gave you money, let's just say keep it nice and round. So $100,000,
Mhm.
and then they can take that money back out and then do whatever they want with it.
Yes, it's cash. Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain how is so what are you doing with that money then?
Yeah, so do you remember when Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were on the election stage in 2016,
Hmm.
and they were saying, Trump, show your tax returns, show your tax returns.
Yeah.
And Trump said, what? I'm not showing you my tax returns. And Hillary goes to Donald Trump, well, that's because you don't pay any taxes. You're
Hmm.
bad. And Donald
Yeah.
Trump says, that doesn't make me bad, that makes me smart. I
Hmm.
use the same IRS codes you and your donors use, and you had 30 years to close the loophole, and you didn't. Do you recall that?
I remember part of that conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, they were referring specifically to IRS Code Section 7702. This is a strategy that has billions up to trillions of dollars. It is not a mainstream media type of strategy. It's now becoming popular on social media, also known as infinite banking, be your own
Hmm.
bank, or rich person's Roth. What
Hmm.
it basically allows my clients to do is dump money in, and then you can leverage it and pull it out. Like, let's say if Elon Musk needs $100 million for a SpaceX rocket, he has
Yeah.
two choices. He can sell $200 million of Tesla stock, give the
Hmm.
government $100 million in taxes on that
Yeah.
money because it comes to his income,
Hmm.
lose out on $200 million of future revenue on that said stock he sold, net the 100 million, buy the rocket.
Right.
Or he can do what my clients do and all the wealthy people in the country do, is they take $100 million of Tesla stock, he
Hmm.
leans it, the bank cuts him a check for $100 million loan, so he
Hmm.
pays 4 or 5% interest on the loan. The stock historically earns more than the 4 or 5% loan. There's
Right.
zero taxes on that. He
Hmm.
still owns that asset that's growing, and then he buys the rocket. So that's
Gotcha.
called leveraging or leaning inside of a non-direct recognition IUL strategy with a mutual carrier that's A plus rated, been around 176 years, been averaging 15% documented tax-free compounding annualized returns over the last 20 years.
Okay, so you're basically using an asset, like in this case, stocks, and then you're leaning it against the stocks and then taking the money out. And then is that money going towards a policy or is it just cash in your bank?
It's more complex than that. You're not buying stock, you're buying option contracts on low volatility mutual funds. So they're 1 year option contracts in companies like PIMCO, BlackRock, Vanguard. And inside of them, they have managed money like a hedge
Hmm.
fund does.
Yeah.
And inside that fund, let's say the market goes down, you
Hmm.
lose nothing. The insurance company has all of the shorts and has all of the puts. You own all of the calls and all of the longs. And not only do you get whatever the market does in that said investment, you get 235% participation in that said return with no cap. So if let's say the market in this strategy or this investment did 20%, they
Hmm.
credit you 20% times 2.35, which would be a
Okay.
47% rate of return.
Hmm.
In 2020, my clients got 37% tax-free rate of return because the fund did like 14 and a half, and they get 235% of it.
Okay.
So if you have all of the calls, the insurance company has all of the puts. It's a mutual company, so it's a
Hmm.
not-for-profit company. It allows my clients to invest long term, have some short term liquidity. It's usually a mid to long term strategy. But I did have a client that was moving to California to Arizona, and she sold her house for 1.5 million, dumped in 1.1 million after capital gains and realtor cost,
Hmm.
netted out 700,000 in cash to buy the house that she had in Arizona, and is
Hmm.
still earning compounding returns on 1.1 million. So it's called leveraging or leaning your death benefit while you're still alive, and then the
Oh,
loan comes from the general account of the insurance company.
it's kind of like what that Michigan coach does, right? Where he's not getting paid out they think the school's Michigan's paying out his life insurance policy and then he's able to pull that money out.
That's the whole point. I mean, tell me another asset that can't lose, is sue-proof, is
Hmm.
divorce-proof in some states, been averaging double-digit returns over the last 20 years, cut up any 5, 10 year period, it's averaged double digits tax-free, compounding. You have disability, you have long-term care, you have critical illness, critical ailment, you have a death benefit for legacy planning or estate planning. Because
Hmm.
if people have a lot of real estate, they're going to run into an issue when they die. Because if all that money they have in real estate is illiquid, everything that you have is going to be highly taxed, highly feed, and passed to the next generation. Even worse, if all you have is real estate, like my grandmother had,
Hmm.
my grandfather owned Lombardi Masonry in Trumbull, Connecticut. He built all the Westfield Shopping Mall foundations in New England.
Yeah.
And when he passed, my grandmother inherited $4.2 million, where 4 million of it was in real estate. This was back in the late 90s.
Hmm.
She had a stroke led to dementia. I don't know if you know this, but nursing home costs are anywhere between 15 and 35,000 a month. That's after tax.
Yeah.
So my grandmother had to liquidate properties, and it actually cost her about 63,000 a month because you had the realtor costs, you had the capital gains, and unfortunately my grandfather didn't die at the height of the real estate market.
Hmm.
So what happened was they sold those properties under value because you had to fire sale them to get the money to pay the home.
Yeah.
The realtor takes 7%, capital gains takes 20%. It literally leaves very little liquidity because it's an illiquid, hard, high taxed, high feed asset to sell. It's great for revenue and income while you're younger or even in
Hmm.
retirement. But if that's most of your assets and you don't have any other diversification of taxation, market downside, liquidity, because property is usually not liquid, especially during a down market, banks
Yeah.
aren't lending. So what
Hmm.
my clients do is they use my strategy when the market corrects, they have a big pile of cash. Now they're able to buy whatever they want at extreme discount. While the market was going up, they're making 15, 20, 30% tax free. Then when the market's going down, they're losing nothing when everybody else is losing in their 401ks, their IRAs, their real estate, their business equity. So it allows an asset class that has great diversification on taxation, liquidity, and market exposure.
So you keep saying that these gains are tax free. Is it just because they're non-cash?
It's tax-free because of IRS Code 7702 built correctly in a MEC, meaning it's a non-MEC, a non-modified endowment contract. And if the death benefit is legally tax-free through the IRS, which it is, if you overfund that policy and you put that wrapper around that dollar, it's
Mhm.
legally tax-free. Think of a 401k or an IRA. What
Yeah.
is that? It's a wrapper around your dollar that has rules, right?
Yeah.
High
Hmm.
fees, 12B1 fee, Class A share fund fee, money management fee, annual account fee, mutual fund expense fee, high taxes, federal tax, state tax, FICA, Medicare, unemployment, Social Security tax. Can lose if the market goes down, right? So in those type of assets, who wins? Well, you have Wall Street taking half your money in fees over 30 years at 1.5 to 2.5% compounding. And then you have the government taking half of your money when you pull it out as
Right.
income.
Hmm.
So a lot of my clients, what they do is they use my strategy, which I've written 3 books. One of them is called Being Your Own Bank. And if any of your listeners would like any of my books absolutely for free, all they have to do is just write an email to Joe, my name, Joe, at ironhawkfinancial.com, and just say, hey, I would like your free books. I have articles I can send you. I've written Being Your Own Bank. There's a better way than a 401k and long-term care without long-term pain. And those I'll send to you PDF as well
Okay.
as my articles and 2 Forbes articles on my strategy. If you look up Rich Person's Roth Forbes, very simple in Google, you'll find 2 articles, one written by a certified financial planner, one written by a certified public accountant on my strategy from 2018 and 2020. So this is not new. It's just the average investor doesn't know it exists. And unfortunately, in this field, there's over 200 carriers and about 700 different products in this strategy.
Hmm.
So you have to make sure if you own a strategy like this, you have a very high probability it's not a great strategy, meaning there's only a few carriers that can offer this. You have to make sure they're mutual. You have to make sure they're A plus. You have to make sure you build it correctly. Because there's a lot of commission hungry agents out there that sell the policy where it benefits them, meaning the agent, not
Hmm.
you being the person purchasing the strategy. Because there's all types of lower the death benefit, increase the cash value, build it to the non-met max, make sure you have the proper riders at the right carrier and the right investment strategies with the right contracts inside of the investment strategy. So it's not
Hmm.
as simple as, hey, I'm going to go to New York Life and I can do this, or I'm going to go to Mass Mutual and I'm going to do this. You have to make sure you go with a broker, somebody that has access to every carrier so that they can actually give you the best strategy on the market, not what their sales manager said, hey, this is our best strategy, meaning, hey, I'm at MetLife. This is the best strategy we have, which is not even competitive in the marketplace compared to the other 200 carriers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So one of the examples you talked about, or the example you use is Elon has 200 million in stocks, and he can use that as collateral.
Yes.
So I have property that I have a bunch of equity in these properties. I bought them during COVID and before COVID, so right before everything shot up. Um, and I've been trying to figure out what to do with that equity. I was thinking about either selling them or doing some type of cash out refi, but then my rates are super low on them. So can I use equity in these properties to put into an IUL?
Yeah, there's 2 ways to use your equity. If you're looking for estate planning, which I know you're not, you're young, but I do work with very, very wealthy people that are between 50 and 70 years old. And those people, what they're looking for is they're looking for estate tax discounts or estate tax planning. So there's
Mhm.
2 ways to leverage your equity. There's something called premium financing. I'm doing a deal right now in Hartford, Connecticut for a client of mine who's worth about $47 million in all Section 8 housing buildings in
Mhm.
low income neighborhoods. He says, "Hey Joe," he has a bunch of policies with me already, and I work with him, his mom, his son, his sister. They're all very wealthy. They just got a $41.2 million contract from the city of Hartford, Connecticut, to update 3 old buildings that are all on the road where he already owns like 7 of those buildings, and they're like 100 unit to 300 unit properties. So he says, "Hey, my mom is 64 years old. She's healthy, but I want to make sure that when she dies, because there's a generational tax, death tax,
Hmm.
estate tax, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
and it's sunsetting in, I don't know, 4 weeks, January 1st, 2025. And it's reducing the estate tax from 14 million down to 7. Anything over $7 million, you have to pay a federal tax of 52%, and depending what state you're in, an additional 8 to 20% in that state tax over the 7 million. So he said, "Hey, my net worth is estimated over the next 20 years at the rule of 72. If inflation and interest grown up 7.2%, in 10 years it's going to double. So
Hmm.
if he's worth 40 million now, that means 80, 160. And that's if she dies at 74. If she dies at 84, that's 300 million. So
Right.
he said, "Hey, how do I buy a contract or a life insurance policy for little to no cost where I can then leverage the bank to fund the policy for me? I put up my properties as collateral, sort of not a home equity line, not a mortgage.
Hmm.
It's called collateral. It's very clever. It goes into the insurance policy, meaning in this example, he's going to pay $4.4 million a year in a life insurance policy. It's going to purchase $100 million valuation for his mother. It's paid for
Hmm.
12 years. He only pays $300,000 a year. That's just the interest only. So he pays 300. The bank puts in 4.2 million into the policy. At the end of the 12 years, the cash value in that plan, putting in $4.2 million for 12 years, is going to be anywhere between 65 million and 90 million. Well, the bank is going to get back their 48 million that they paid. He paid in
Hmm.
3.6 million total,
Yeah.
300,000 times 12 years.
Hmm.
Now he has $100 million tax-free asset upon his mom's death that avoids estate tax and ordinary income tax. So think about how much money he would need in real estate to net 100 million tax-free if it's in his mom's name. Well, that would be 400 million. Because if you
Yeah.
have 50% going to the estate taxes, that's 200 million. Then you have
Hmm.
ordinary income going down from 50% from 2 million down to 1 million.
Yeah.
So now he's able to collateralize properties where he just has, 20, 30 million in equity sitting there doing nothing. The bank's going to use that to leverage to pay the policy. The policy is going to increase because there's a guarantee you can't lose. So he's guaranteed his 40, whatever, 2 million back in 12 years. And he's able to leverage that asset. So that's the first strategy. The striking strategy, which I think you're talking about, is hey, I have, let's say, $1 million sitting in equity. It's doing nothing. I want a way to leverage that to make more than the cost of inflation and or the interest rate I'm paying. And I
Hmm.
also want to possibly be able to leverage that money out in the future if the market were to readjust and I can buy things at a discount. So there's good news and bad news in that strategy. The good news is we can do that. The bad news is you don't have 100% liquidity. There's something called a surrender penalty. It's a 10-year surrender penalty.
Okay.
So let's say you had $200,000 cash in the account, but your surrender penalty is 63,000 year one, which is not a cost to you. It's just they don't let you pull that money out and it goes down every year until the 10 years is up. So like that example, that woman rolled over 1.1 million. She couldn't
Yeah.
pull out 1.1 million. She could only pull out about 770 and she only needed 700 in cash.
Right. Hmm.
So it's basically all about how you build it. The lower the death benefit, the more cash value is because there's less expenses, right? You're
Hmm.
not paying for the cost inside the plan. That's more money in the market, more money in
Yeah.
the contracts, more growth. The
Yeah.
more death benefit you buy, the more cost is inside the plan, the less of those dollars are going into the contracts in the market. So it's a very sophisticated plan, and you used to need to be an accredited investor. That's why not a lot of people heard of this. You used
Hmm.
to need to have $5 million in net worth to even look at this strategy.
Hmm.
But when you have healthy competition within the private sector, which the government's a monopoly, so when you invest with them, who's winning the government is.
Right.
But when you're in the private sector, when the investment insurance companies are fighting for those dollars, they kept lowering it, lowering it, lowering it. Now I have clients that do 500 bucks a month in my strategy, as well as clients who do, two, 300 million.
Yeah. Okay. So there's still some cost upfront, right, from me.
Well,
And
there's a
then
commission, right? So I don't ever charge a penny for my time, and I work with clients, 20 years. I get paid for every dollar I bring an investment or insurance company into their products.
Mhm.
And then I cultivate the strategy using different products, right?
Got it.
So it's very complex. It's not as easy as, oh, I could just buy an index universal life or a whole life plan from somebody. It's a lot more complex than that because there's a lot of things you have to know. And me doing this for literally 21 years straight, all I do is use this code as a strategy. And I work with three Fortune 500 companies. I'm on all the DraftKings commercials nationwide. I'm Joe L in the pink suit. But, having that ability to meet these wealthy people, hang out with billionaires. I could show you being front row, center at finals, Super Bowl, hanging out with Peyton Manning, Kevin Hart in a private tournament. It's a fun life because the average American doesn't know it exists. But what I try and do is bring it to the blue collar market because if my dad had a strategy like this when he fell, he would have been safe. If my grandmother had a strategy like this when she got sick, had a a stroke, led to dementia, she was in a nursing home for 7 years. All that 4 million my grandfather had in real estate would have passed down to us, his grandchildren, instead of being stolen by the state of Connecticut. If
Right.
this strategy was in place when my mom died at 52 years old, cirrhosis of the liver from alcoholism, as well as being an emotional distraught because she died 1 month before my first child was born, October 3rd, 09, it crippled me not only emotionally, but financially because I was her only kin. So
Mhm.
it's one of those things where if you fail to plan, your plans to fail. So it's important to have a foundation. That's not the sexy part. The sexy part is, hey, I can leverage the money. I'm getting double digit historical returns. I can't lose. It's sue proof. It's divorce proof. That's the cool part. Having that foundation is what everybody needs, but nobody wakes up on a Thursday and is like, oh, how's my disability plan today? How's my long-term care strategy for 40 years down the road? Nobody does the planning until it's too late.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's been something that I've been thinking about. I think I was first introduced to this maybe 6 to 8 months ago. Um, but I guess my biggest thing is I don't have a ton of cash because all the money that I make, I just put into
Real estate.
investments. But
Yep.
if I can take the cash and put it into something and then leverage that policy to go out and then buy, then I'd much rather do that because I'm looking for lines of credit. I want to be able to tap into this equity. Um, and so let's just say year one, let's just say I have 800,000 in equity that I want in these houses. That's just market value less the loan balance. What type of loan to value do you use percentage wise as collateral for property?
So if you want to use as estate planning, you need at minimum 5 million.
Okay.
If you want to use it as a way to leverage the money out, you have to take a look at what the interest rates are charging you versus
Hmm.
historical rates of return.
Yeah.
So if they're charging you 6.5 and this thing's been
Hmm.
averaging 15,
Yeah.
not a bad, vice. You're not going to see those gains though until mid to later on in this contract. That's why it's very hard for young people
Hmm.
to understand that there's a long-term asset class. They think, oh, I'll just put in all my money in real estate and I'm going to be fine. But I mean, my dad lost his company when he got disabled. My wife's, her dad lost 8.2 million in real estate because he was kept rolling and redeveloping. He owned Corzon Building Company. And he got caught with his pants down because he was using bank leverages to fix and flip houses. And four of
Hmm.
his houses weren't completely done, meaning they were waiting on a roof, they were waiting on drywall, they were waiting on appliances. And then when the
Yeah.
banks froze that money that he had, he
Hmm.
lost everything. So it's all about diversification. If you talk to a crypto guy, all his money's in crypto. If you
Yeah.
talk to a real estate guy, all his money's in real estate. If you
Hmm.
talk to an insurance guy, all his money's insurance. What I do is I own crypto, I have real estate, I have a lot of money in my index UL policy, I have pensions that are offered by these investment insurance companies because I'm number one in the country for production for a company called National Life Group. That's the main carrier I use, but I'm with over 200 of them. They're just the best when it comes to this strategy. Um, they're the number one, selling one in the country.
Hmm.
So you have to make sure that you diversify. And unfortunately, when people like something, they usually go all in, right?
Hmm.
Gamblers like the casino, they spend all their money at, the casino. People like their pocket casinos, they spend all their money on DraftKings or FanDuel. It's all about diversifying, and that's very difficult for us Americans because we're trained on instant gratification, and we're trained that, hey, if something's working, just keep doing it. And it's
Yeah.
like everything is working until it's not. And there, you can just look in the last 30 years, every asset class has caught a failure point
Mhm.
except this strategy. And the strategy has been around 178 years, survived the Civil War, World War One, the Great Depression, World War Two, never needed outsourced money, never needed federal money, never even went public to do an IPO to raise money because they were in a hardship. This is where people like baseball players, think of somebody like Shohei Ohtani. He gets a $700 million contract. Does he put it in the bank with a $250,000 FDIC insurance? No. Does he put it in a 401k with a $19,500 max? No. Does he put it into a SEP that has a $63,000 max? No. Those very wealthy people, they're the ones who built this plan for them. They had lobbyists. I was a lobbyist in AALU when I was at Guardian, and I used to go down to the White House. And I used to, I could show you pictures of being in the White House after 5 p.m. on Friday, having private dinners with congressmen and senators, because I was part of the lobbyist group that keeps life insurance tax free. It is a group because I make my living from it, and I'm one of the top people in the country on this based on numbers,
Mhm.
production, clients, zero complaints, thousands of clients. That's how I get on the cover of many of these major magazines. But it's all about leveraging and diversification. And it's very hard for people who had success in one area of their investing and said, "Oh, I'm just going to put
Mhm.
all my money there." And that's great and it works until it doesn't. And that's why it's so important to have a foundation before you have your real estate, before you have your risk, before you have your business equity, and before you have your luxury. You need to have a financial foundation. It doesn't matter how many millions you have. So it's so vitally important to get this strategy set up as soon as you're young, because of compounding interest, cost of insurance. And
Yeah.
then once it's set up, you're fine. I have 3 children. All of my children have these plans right when they were born. As soon as I got the Social Security card, that day I'm putting in the application. They were instant approved. Now my children's college is paid for. My children, which I don't really care to go to college, but it's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But my children's car is paid for, their wedding's paid for, the down payment on their house is paid for, all for $1,000 a month each. Are you kidding me? Each account's going to be worth in the millions, tax free. No 59 and a half year rule. No 10% penalty for early withdrawals like a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. So when you understand that this was made for the ultra wealthy, rules for thee don't apply to me. That's what the wealthy do. And this is their 401k. And it smokes the general public's type of accounts. Not even close.
Got it. So then, selfishly, I just want to understand what the process would look like for my situation. So if I held on to my properties, I would have to go out and do like a cash out, refi to pull that cash and then put it into I can't just use the property as collateral.
You could do it inside of a revolving home equity line of credit if you
Hmm.
wanted to, which only charges you on the money you spend. My
Yeah.
partner who owns Cash Map. It's a app you can download on the Apple Store or the Android store. His name
Hmm.
is Dennis Williams. He's an MBA in finance, 60 years old, worked as a top guy at United Healthcare in Hawaii. He developed a strategy where my strategy is be your own bank, and then
Hmm.
his strategy is be your own bank. So you can leverage real estate, right? Change
Yeah.
everything to the last day of the month for all of your bills, put
Yeah.
your paychecks in the first, the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd,
Hmm.
put them in your home equity line of credit, right? So now you have you're paying down debt instead of leaving your money in the bank.
Yeah.
And then you can save yourself somewhere around 17 to 35% of interest on your house by paying zero extra dollars. So we can go as in depth as you want from these strategic strategies,
Yeah.
leveraging real estate, depending on, hey, I want to pay down my costs faster, or and I want to build wealth faster with these assets because just holding real estate is dead money.
Hmm.
You have a
Yeah.
800 grand sitting there earning you zero, like
Yeah.
net rate of return. You're getting whatever the fluctuation in the market is, but you're
Yeah.
not getting it. Right?
Yeah.
I knew somebody in 2007 that had $200 million in real estate, and in 2008 he had $43 million in real estate. So if you met him in 2007, he would have been like, "Oh shoot, this my real estate's earning me 150 million." And if you talk to him 9 months later, he'd say, "I lost 7 million on his 50 million." So realizing those gains, leveraging, diversifying, spreading the risk, these are things that very ultra wealthy investors do. But the average investor just goes all in on one thing and says, hey, hope it goes through. It worked so far this long, and I'm going to keep doing it. And that's really not. We all heard of don't put all your eggs in one basket, but
Yeah.
most people do. And when things don't go to plan, it can cripple everything you've built for decades before.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely want to learn because I've also heard the strategy too. We're using HELOC
Yeah,
to pay things. Just it's just based on timing.
it's the coolest thing ever because if you're leaving 50 grand in savings,
Mhm.
what's the bank paying you on that?
Yeah.
Zero. Even if it's in
Yeah.
a low interest bearing account, you're earning one, they're lending it out for 15. So, but what are you paying on your debt? Oh, I'm paying 3%. No, you're not. You're paying 70% because on a mortgage, there's amortization. In the
Hmm.
first year, you're paying like 91% interest on
Yeah.
for meaning your mortgage is 1,500, 1,200 is going to interest and 300 is
Right.
going to principal, then 301, then 302, then three.
Yeah.
And so 1199, 1198. So if you end up moving everything to the last day of the month, all of your paychecks that are coming in, whether it's rental income, whether it's from your job, whether you own a business, whether you have passive income, when that comes in, you don't leave it in the bank. You buy not a fixed home equity line, you buy a revolving line of credit, which allows you to go up and down, pull money out, put money in, pull money out, put money in. On a fixed one, you can't do that. You can pay it, but you can't get it back. So you
Yeah.
have to make sure it's a revolving line of credit, not a fixed 10-year or a 10-year certain or interest only. You don't want that. By
Yeah.
doing that, think about this. I had a client that had a 3% mortgage, right?
Hmm.
I referred him to Dennis. I sat there on the strategy. It took me 6 months to learn this strategy, to believe it. Because I'm like,
Hmm.
if I have a 3% loan rate and I'm going to buy a 15% loan from Lending Tree to pay off a 3% loan, are you smoking crack? That's the dumbest
Yeah.
thing I ever heard. But
Yeah.
because you move everything to one day of the month and you charge one day of interest out of the month, the other 29 days, your account zero because
Yeah.
it's negative. You're overfunding the account. So the
Yeah.
one day a month that you transfer money to pay your electric bill and your gas bill and your car insurance and all your bills that day, right? And then what
Hmm.
happens the next day on the first? Another paycheck comes in, right? That goes
Yeah.
back down to the home equity line. So if you pay one day of interest after 30, that's 1/30th of 15%, which is what?
Right.
50 basis points. So even
Right.
on a 15% loan, you're not paying it because it's daily compounding average. And if you have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 times 29 and then 15 times 1, 15% on one day, that is
Yeah.
an average daily balance of 50 basis points of interest, paying off a 3 to 5% loan rate, which will put hundreds of thousands of dollars in your pocket for zero cost.
I mean, that's crazy. Is it because you're just paying a day early, so you're not compounding that interest? The mortgage is not accruing that interest for that one day. Is that what it
That's
is?
yeah, the other 29 days you don't have a balance on it
Yeah. Yeah.
because all your paychecks went in. So all the
Hmm.
money that's sitting in your bank account right now earning you nothing can be
Yeah.
paying down your debt. And a
Hmm.
dollar saved is a dollar earned. So if I end up saving $150,000 in interest over 10 years on my 15-year mortgage, which would be dumb, never buy a 15-year, always buy a 30 and then pay
Hmm.
it down faster, but that's one other conversation. But if I can wipe out 10 years off my mortgage by by me being the bank with my revolving debt home equity line, then with my retirement index universal life policy, I could be have another bank account to leverage what is a bloodline to any business or real estate investor? Liquidity. And
Yeah.
I can give those to my clients with my strategy, along with Dennis's Williams strategy. He's the owner of Cash Map out of Washington. Amazing guy. And he will charge a small fee to set everything up, teach you everything. I don't charge a fee. I'm absolutely
Mhm.
free. So having some guys like us, a lot of realtors, we refer business back and forth because
Hmm.
people go to him to save money on the mortgage, and then he refers them to me to do foundational planning, long-term care, estate tax planning. And for me, I meet business owners and who have 300 grand sitting in their business checking, earning zero. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what do you have in, your property? Oh, my property is 380 grand at 7.9 because it's a commercial loan, not a residential or
Yeah.
an FHA loan. So it's strategies where one guy wiped off $525,000 in interest for $0. Just moved all of his bills, his tractor, his equipment, his crane. He was paying about $73,000 a month for all his equipment. He was making about 400,000 a month. We moved all of his bills to the last day of the month. Took the 300 grand he had, so now his bank account had zero. His bank, he literally had $0 in his check. Like, well, I got to pay payroll. Well, move it from your home equity line over to your bank 1 day a week, pay payroll, pay the crane, pay your gas bill, pay your mortgage, pay all that. And then when
Hmm.
the checks come in, it goes from your bank right back to the home equity line of credit.
So that's what I've been hearing, that a lot of these people that are a lot of these like established investors, these large investors, they have $0 in the bank account.
Zero. When you put money in the bank, who makes that money? Do you?
The
No.
bank does.
There's something called fractional lending,
Hmm.
meaning a bank takes 100 grand of your deposit, they
Yeah.
lend out 90% of it. So then they take 90,000, they lend it to Joe Schmo, who owns a
Hmm.
landscaping company. Where
Yep.
does Joe Schmo put that 90 grand? He either buys something with it, which where does the person that buys it put it? In the bank. If he
Yeah.
doesn't buy something with it, he takes that 90 grand, puts it back in the bank. The bank says, okay, the 90, we just got the 90 grand literally right back. Let's loan out another 90%. Then they loan
Yeah.
out 81,000 to Sarah. Then where does Sarah put the money? She either buys something, it goes into the purchaser's bank, or it goes into her bank. And
Yeah.
now that 81,000 comes in, then what the bank do? They say, well, let's loan out another 90%, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And that's why you could see that we are $37 trillion in national debt, but there's about $5 trillion in the M1 money supply. Make that make sense.
So for these revolving lines of credit, do you know anybody that will do it off of investment properties?
Absolutely. You need to have credit and income, of course, you know that. Like
Hmm.
if you were to
Yeah.
purchase any type, if you did a refi, if you did a cash out, if you did, it's a riskier situation doing this way because what if the market doesn't perform?
Right.
Right? So now your money could actually lose your money, but it's not a lot, right? Even if the
Hmm.
market crashes, you don't lose anything, but you still
Yeah.
have the negative amortization of the loan to pay,
Hmm.
the revolving line. So
Yeah.
it's not something that I highly recommend unless
Hmm.
you aren't super leveraged, meaning your net worth is 2 million, you want to pull out a couple 100,000, dump it here, drip in 20, 40,000 a year, fine. I'm not going
Hmm.
to leverage somebody, 90% LOV to do this because what if the market doesn't do well and what if the housing market goes down?
Right.
There's risk to everything.
Hmm.
This is a strategy that the ultra wealthy use. They usually don't leverage their properties to do it as a way to build wealth. They usually
Hmm.
do it for estate planning. If
Okay.
you said, "Hey, I'm cash flow poor and I'm asset rich and I want liquidity," well, sell the property, right? Because if you
Hmm.
sell the property, now you're going to pay the capital gains. Now we put pile of cash. Now
Yeah.
you can dump that in this strategy, but my strategy does not have instant gratification.
Right.
Very sophisticated investors know if they're 38, like I'm 40 years old, I got
Hmm.
30 more years that I'm still going to be working as long as God keeps me here, right?
Yeah.
So I don't care if I'm 40, 43, 46. I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 53. I'm going to be 58. I'm going to be 61. Why wouldn't I set up a plan now that sets me up for the rest of my life? It's not
Yeah.
sexy in the next year or two, but it's something that over time more of the surrender penalty goes down, more of the
Hmm.
cash value grows, it
Yeah.
leverages, and after 10 years, the whole thing is liquid. It's just a big cash account. And
Yeah.
then now during those 10 years, I can still leverage it, just not the full 100% of my account value, like 70% year one, 75%, 80, 82, 84, 93, 90, I can leverage most of it. But once
Yeah.
the 10 years is up, now it's just compounding for me. And the fact that if you're healthy and you lock in like preferred plus, even elite or even standard, if you lock that in, you're locked in. So if you are unhealthy 10, 20 years down the road, you get diagnosed with ABC, you gain 100 pounds, whatever, you're locked in at that rating. So it's very important to do this planning when you're young. And yes, it's
Mhm.
not sexy. Nobody goes near the water cooler and says, I just started putting $2,000 a month in an IUL. It's at the end of year one, I'm going to have 22 grand of the 24 grand I put in. Woohoo. No, they
Yeah.
talk about, oh, I bought, XRP. It's up 5x in the last 2 weeks. Look how great I am. But nobody tells you about the investment that, hey, I bought this real estate deal. I found out that there was a crack in the foundation. I had to come 10 grand out to go, it actually, I lost money on the deal. Nobody brags about losing money. You only hear about the winning things, whether it's
Yeah.
crypto, real estate, or the stock market, but
Mhm.
or even the casino, right? Your
Yeah.
friend or a scratch off. Oh, I won $5,000 on scratch offs. Yeah, you spent $7,800 over the last 3 years winning that $5,000. Great job. But so everybody always brags about their wins. They never talk about their losses. I actually enjoy talking to my clients about their losses because it's
Yeah.
real.
I enjoy talking about losses too because there's so much to learn from these losses.
Yeah, if I only hear is wins, how am I going to grow? I need to know how you got screwed, who screwed you, what happened in the deal, what did the real estate agent do, what did the broker
Yeah.
do, what did the, home inspector not tell you? Those
Hmm.
are the good stories so that when you have the opportunity, you can say, "Oh, I remember that story I heard from Joe or I heard from John. Let me make sure it doesn't happen to me."
Yeah. Yeah. I went on a friend's podcast and just talked about a horror story that I just went through. But yeah, so that was one of the questions I wanted to get through to. So if I were to put 100 grand in for year one, then 70,000 is what I can actually go in and deploy into other opportunities. And then
Yep.
that just goes up until year 10, it's completely 100%.
Yes, but it's not a one-time contribution because that
Hmm.
would cause it to be a MEC, a
Right.
modified endowment
Hmm.
contract. What
Yeah.
a modified endowment contract is in English is you can't buy $1 million policy and put $10 million into it to avoid
Right.
taxation. So the government has created it's called a 7-pay rule, which is based on your age, your sex, your health rating, and the amount of coverage that you're purchasing, and they
Hmm.
give you a maximum non-met contribution. And I have software that I usually hit a button to
Hmm.
build it that way for my clients. Now it cost me 70 to 80% of my commission. So most agents don't want to tell the public about it.
Yeah.
Because if let's say you invest $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. If I build it at target, which is where it's right up to the max of my commission, I can
Hmm.
get paid a percentage on 12 grand.
Hmm.
If I build it non-MEC max cash,
Yeah.
minimum death max cash, which is a button, and I have software. Now instead of being paid on 12,000, I get a percentage. I'm only paid on like 2,800 bucks. So it's like, well, I don't want to tell this guy this. I want to, make my max commission on this deal because I only sell 5 of them a year. That's the average investor. I sell
Yeah.
five or advisor. I sell five of
Hmm.
them a day. I'm licensed in all 50 states. I have agents in almost every state that work under Ironhawk Financial. So I'm building something big because there's the Dave Ramseys of the world that says what? I hate whole life. I hate IULs. I hate annuities. They're the worst for the middle class. Just buy term and invest a difference with my Reby advisors. Because
Hmm.
and I was on both sides of the fence. I worked in Wall Street as an investment advisor. I was securities licensed for 17 years. I was just screwing people. I was taking all this money, bringing no value, not buying or selling anything, putting in target funds like your
Hmm.
401k has if you're watching, which is crap. And I'm taking a point or two on your retirement and giving you zero value. It was free money. Like
Yeah.
it was stupid. I said,
Mm.
what value am I bringing this person that I'm managing their money? I didn't bring them any
Right.
freaking value. I'm just stealing his freaking money. That's all
Yeah.
Wall Street does is steal your money, your retirement money, and bring you zero value in return. There's
Mm.
look up 12B1 fees, Class A share fund fee, money management fee, annual account fee, mutual fund expense fee, assets under management fee, AUM fee. There's all these fees, and like they show you two of them, or they show you what the index cost. Oh, my index cost is only 88 basis points. Well, Fidelity managing that isn't making any of that 88 basis points. That's going to the mutual fund. What are they making? And
Yeah.
then your guy Bob at Fidelity, who's managing your account, what is he making? And you add it all up, it's like one to 2.5% every year, compounding. So as your account goes up, your fees go up.
Hmm.
You have $2, $3 million in the account, you're paying 20 to $60,000 a year in fees. For what? For what?
Yeah.
What am I getting? So I left Wall Street because I realized, yeah, I was making millions of dollars a year, but I was screwing people to get it. And I said, I don't want to live a life like that, especially when I got married and I had children. I don't want my children. What do you do, Dad? Oh, I just steal people's money out of their retirement because I have to charge an AUM fee. No, I wanted to provide value to my clients. So I really started working with very wealthy people, figuring out exactly what they do and copying it and bringing it to the lower market.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, even when I was trying to get my dad to move his money from out of a regular 401k IRA into a self-directed, just like the fees, it's just based on the account value, you're just getting destroyed. Um, so yeah, I definitely agree with that. Cool. Well, um, I really appreciate you coming on. Do you have any parting words or anything else that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, if any of your viewers needs help with any of this stuff, I have a team, right? If you're starting out, you have a couple $100 to put away. I have people that I personally train. I do training 3 times a week with my team, teaching them about the strategies, how to do the illustrations, the software development, what carriers to use. We have wholesalers coming in from a bunch of other carriers to show us their best product compared to the product I'm utilizing. So I know I have the best thing on the market, period. And it changes. If you go to my LinkedIn, you could see that I've won awards at MetLife, Mass Mutual, Guardian, Northwestern Mutual, Penn Mutual, like National Life Group. Like I don't give a crap what the carrier is. I get you the best deal on the market, and that's what separates me from my competitors, and that's why I have a 99.6% retention rate and zero complaints with thousands of clients. Because if I get you the best thing on the market, when you meet the next guy or girl,
Mhm.
she's not gonna be able to beat what I have, and that's gonna reinforce that what I did was the right thing for you. And
Very
when you
cool.
have that reputation, it's earned over decades. So if
Mhm.
any of your people want to meet with me, they can go to ironhawkfinancial.com. That's www.iron like the metal, hawk like the bird, financial.com. There's a contact us button on the top right. You can fill out your email, your name, your phone number. Either myself or somebody on my team will reach out to you to book something. You can go to my Calendly, book a meeting directly on my Calendly, which is calendly.com/Ironhawk Financial. You can also, if you're interested in my books, my articles, maybe you're not ready to buy, maybe you're skeptical, this guy's smoking crack, I'm going to invest my retirement and life insurance, go after yourself, fine. If you want to research it, because men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie, if you want to research it, just send an email to Joe, Joe, at ironhawkfinancial.com and put free books. There's no obligation. You won't be put on any type of email spam list. I'll send you one email with my books, my articles, everything. And then also my Calendly link if you want to book a 30-minute, meeting to have a conversation. At the end of the day, all I'm trying to do is help people save money on taxes, protect them from market losses, give them liquidity, not handcuff your money to your 59 and a half years old. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, especially if you're an
Mhm.
entrepreneur. You're gonna put
Yeah.
your money in jail for decades, and you think that's a
Yeah.
good strategy? Seriously? Are you the one smoking crack? So it's knowing that what I'm saying is true. It has over 150 years of success surviving the Civil War, the Great Depression, where the market was down 95%. Nobody lost a penny in these strategies, not one. So it's by far, in my opinion, the best strategy because for me personally, it covers that foundation that I had to deal with my dad getting disabled, my mother dying at 52 years old, and my grandmother having a stroke led to dementia, losing everything my grandfather built for 40 years, stolen by a nursing home. But on top of that, it gives you the living benefit, right? Of because what people have a misconception with is life insurance and death insurance. People think that all life insurance is death insurance. You've been lied to. Those are two different things. Google them. Death insurance is term. There's only a value if you stop breathing. Well, okay, you get that to protect your kids or your spouse if you're the high income earner. Cool. But life insurance insures your life while you are alive. And that is the most important thing that people miss out on. And then when something happens out of their control, everything that they built is gone.
Great to know. So we will have all of those links and everything and your LinkedIn in the description just to make it easier.
I also have
Joe,
my own radio show, Money
okay.
Talk with Ironhawk. So I bring in accountants, attorneys. I had a Secret Service guy who was with Trump and Biden. I have an accountant that will verify that what I'm saying is true, a licensed accountant. So if you want to listen, it's Money Talk with Ironhawk. It's on everything.
Mhm.
It's through Brushwood Media Group, which is a sister company of Apple. So I'm on every single Apple product, Apple CarPlay, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Android Podcast. But if you want to listen to that as well, I'm trying to grow my audience there.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I definitely have to listen to that. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate all the information that you shared with us.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of your listeners have a headache now. I'm sorry. What do you think I have to know? But yeah, it was definitely fun. I appreciate the opportunity to come on your platform, and hopefully we can speak in the future as well.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thank you.